I'm Joel Peterson. I'm the founder and winemaker of Ravenswood. I've been doing this winemaking thing for over 30 years now. I hate to tell you how long. I started Ravenswood back in 1976. It was a little tiny winery. We made 327 cases, and we specialized in Zinfandel, and we still specialize in Zinfandel. We do make a little bit more wine than that these days. Ravenswood was sort of founded on the grape that came to California a long time ago, and California has a very long winemaking history. It's a really special and interesting place. In fact, some winemakers who come from different regions of the world think this is paradise to make wine in, because we have wonderful weather, and we have wonderful soils, and we of course have a lot of really energetic people making wine. You know, California's wine history started really a long time ago. You know, back in 1851, the first vinifera grapes arrived here, but even before then, there were grapes being grown in California and wine being made, albeit it wasn't very good wine. It was made from the mission grapes, and it was usually made, by missionaries to supply wine for the church, not wine necessarily for pleasure. The wine for pleasure really happened around the gold rush, when there was a sudden influx of people into California. And many of those people didn't find gold, but they did find this wonderful horticultural bounty in California. And they really were able to capitalize on that, and they began experimenting with grape varieties. And the first grapes really arrived with a guy named Macondri, although there were other people experimenting with them as well. And very rapidly, California was seen as a place where you could actually grow grapes and make good wine. In fact, the first European wine writer, rolled through, Sonoma about 1867 and found a very flourishing business. He stopped at one of the vineyards we make wine out of today, called Old Hill Ranch, and he said, "Wow, this is the best wine I've tasted in California. It's as good as the best wines of Europe, like a great claret." Well, it wasn't really until 1976 with the Paris tasting that we saw that once again reaffirmed. But indeed, wonderful wines even early. They specialized in those days in Zinfandel, Petit Syrah, and Carignan, and sort of Mediterranean varieties, a little Syrah, a little Grenache. We had prohibition in this country, which wasn't a wonderful thing for us, and we really lost a whole lot of winemaking tradition in California. 13 years without really a winemaking tradition really puts a cramp in your style. And it really wasn't until the 1950s and 1960s when we could start the wine business again. We saw the earliest parts of the modern business as we know it today. Experimented with at Hansel in 1959. They did such things as introduced malolactic fermentation, understanding what that was. Small open top fermenters, French oak, bottling under nitrogen, all those kinds of things that we take for granted today. We're obviously just beginning. So it really hasn't been so long that the California wine business has been in its present form. When in fact, we started the California wine business again, we didn't start on the basis of the grapes that we had in California. They were wonderful grapes, but they had been made into jug wine for so long that people didn't really understand the fineness of them. And so we began adopting things like Cabernet and Merlot and Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, which were sort of the European varieties that people liked and people felt that they could do well here. And in fact, they have. California makes some excellent Pinot Noirs. It makes wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon, but the forgotten grape has really suffered a great rebirth, and that is Zinfandel and Zinfandel plants. So they are doing terrifically. California has a number of AVAs. Those AVAs are different soil types, different climate types, so you really get terrific local flavors and characters in the wines, really special. As we move through the next series, I will talk a little bit more about Zinfandel, that forgotten grape of California, and thank you for joining me.